And the Italian Grand Prix is go! With a good reaction time for one Ferrari, make that two Ferraris. Max Verstappen is breaking out of the slipstream.
Buongiorno Formula One fans. Welcome to Formula Pun Racer, the channel where comedy and car racing collide. After being kept busy for a long time, I am back. This video, I shall give you my review on the Italian Grand Prix at Monza and the Singapore GP at Marina Bay circuit. Let us begin, of course, with the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. And while it was a great excitement for Ferrari, having a fanfare of starting first and third, Carlos Sainz Jr. of Spain on pole, Charles Leclerc of Monaco in third, and championship leader Max Verstappen of Red Bull of the Netherlands starting second, it was quite an interesting start because before the race even started, during the formation lap, AlphaTauri driver Yuki Tsunoda of Japan, well, unfortunately the sun set on him before the race started when his engine gave out on him. Pretty unfortunate. And on top of that, considering where his car was positioned on the track, they brought out the red flag to clear the circuit, and for some reason it took them about 20 minutes before they restarted the race. And I tell you, once again, waiting for the action just made me tired. Wow. How do you like that, folks? I just had another amazing racing dream. Looks like the two Chucks at Ferrari, gunning for over $1 million, were definitely going neck and neck with each other at the Monza circuit. But how did they finish? Well, let me get back to the review and I'll tell you. Sorry about that, Formula One fans. As a result of Yuki Tsunoda's AlphaTauri giving out the red flag because of his blown engine, it reduced the race length from 53 laps to 51. So when it was finally lights out and away we go, the pole sitter Carlos Sainz would speed ahead of Max Verstappen's Red Bull to hang on to the lead for at least 15 laps. Bull versus horse indeed. Although at one point, on lap 6, Max Verstappen made a daredevil move to try to get by Carlos Sainz, but the horse wrestled in that bull by slamming the door on Max's chances of getting past. Unfortunately, as usual, given Max Verstappen's dominant performance, he would eventually get by Carlos Sainz on lap 15 and never look back.
Oh, come on!
Oh, I forgot to mention that in my last video, that when Max Verstappen won the Dutch Grand Prix, it was his 9th Formula One race win in a row. And the only other driver to have made it that far is Germany's Sebastian Vettel, who also won 9 races in a row back in 2013 when he drove with Red Bull. Also in other news, Liam Lawson of New Zealand continues to substitute for Australia's Daniel Ricciardo at AlphaTauri after Daniel broke his hand in a practice crash at Zandvoort. And as for other action on the track, it was mostly around McLaren driver Oscar Piastri of Australia, as he rubbed wheels with his own teammate Lando Norris, and later with Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton, but no harm done. Sergio Perez, Max's teammate, started 5th, but was able in the late stages of the race to worm his way from 5th to 2nd, making it a Red Bull 1-2.
Well, I do have one small criticism. The ending, it was a little, predictable!
Got that right, Dr. Robotnik. This is getting predictable the way Max Verstappen's dominance in Formula One is getting. But by the same token, by winning the Italian Grand Prix, Max Verstappen has created a new record in Formula One. He is the first driver to consecutively win 10 race victories. So congratulations, Max Verstappen, felicitated on that. And as a consolation prize for the prancing horse, well, at least Ferrari finished 3rd and 4th with Carlos Sainz on podium. So at least a podium finish on home soil for Ferrari is a good consolation prize. But as for the Aston Martin racing team, well, Fernando Alonso only got 2 points by finishing 9th, and embarrassingly enough, his Canadian teammate, Lance Stroll, finished well outside of the points in 16th. This is going to be embarrassing for Lance to keep not getting caught up with the top drivers, eh?
What, you think it's funny? You think losing is funny? Well, not at first, but once you get the hang of it.
Well, I surely hope that Lance doesn't find his own bad streak in racing funny, for if he does, I hope Daddy O'Lario gets time to sit down and talk with his son soon enough to tell him to up his game, because I want to see Aston Martin win. And it's embarrassing to see this continue, like Fernando pulling all the weight and Lance coming nowhere near close when both cars ought to be doing great. I just hope they find out what's wrong. Is it Lance or is it the car he's driving? Only time will tell. Well, if you enjoyed the Italian Grand Prix, now it's time to check out my review of the Singapore GP in Marina Bay, and you might be in for a little surprise about how this turned out.
And the Singapore Grand Prix is go! Good launch off the line by the P3 man. Charles Leclerc is trying to take second place. Carlos Sainz holds the lead. Charles Leclerc does take second place.
The first surprise of this race occurred before it even started. And it all began, of course, with the two Red Bulls of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez failing to qualify in the top 10, let alone in the top 3.
What?
A more unpleasant surprise occurred for Canada's Lance Stroll in qualifying when he tried real hard to push his Aston Martin to go faster for a better qualifying position, but in the final corner of a qualifying lap, his car slid out and he slammed into the barrier. Tough luck for the young Canadian to improve, eh? Yeah, that's gotta hurt. Poor Lance. A little sore, but he was able to walk away on his own. But the car was a complete write-off for this race, so Aston Martin withdrew Lance's car, and the team's only hopes now lied with Fernando Alonso of Spain. Tough luck for Lance, eh? Carlos Sainz Jr.'s Ferrari started for the second race in a row on pole. George Russell of Great Britain and his Mercedes started second, and Charles Leclerc's Ferrari started third. When it was lights out and away we go, Ferrari once again burst into the lead ahead of George, and soon enough, Charles Leclerc eventually got by Russell's Mercedes to take a Ferrari 1-2 at this point in the start of the race. But already, it was another unlucky day for AlphaTauri driver Yuki Tsunoda, who damaged his side pod when he went side by side with Sergio Perez's Red Bull. So the sun set once again on the unfortunate Yuki Tsunoda. In addition to Yuki Tsunoda having a bad race, well, Fernando Alonso suffered from it as well, because some of the debris that broke off from Tsunoda's car got underneath Fernando Alonso, who was behind all that, damaged the suspension for the majority of the race, and the handling of his car wasn't so great. On top of that, endured a penalty because he crossed over to pit lane road because he went too fast entering the corner. So Fernando finished outside the top 10. No points for Aston Martin whatsoever. On top of that, well, Logan Sargent of Williams enhanced his reputation of earning 0 points so far in his career when he crashed his car head-on into the wall, broke his front wing, and came back to the pits to pit, shedding debris all over the track, bringing out the safety car. The Ferraris of Leclerc and Sainz Jr. took this opportunity to pit, but they double-stacked their cars, which was kind of a risky strategy, considering they only have one pit box per team. So Carlos Sainz got out ahead first, well ahead of all the other drivers who pit. When it was Leclerc's turn to pit, both drivers went from medium and softs to both hard compound tires. Leclerc unfortunately suffered for it because he was forced to stay in the pit box to wait for traffic to pass, which was one of the Mercedes going by him. Pretty costly for Leclerc to finish second, but Carlos Sainz would maintain the lead, and let's see where it goes from here. Pretty good luck for the Italian stallion thus far.
Oh, excellent.
With all the pit lane penalties and errors that Fernando had gotten along with bad handling suspension in his car, it would be a race that he and Aston Martin would like to forget, especially since the team continues to drop further down the field in points, still in fourth ahead of McLaren, but further away from Ferrari.
Aww.
In contrast, though, Fernando's fellow countryman Carlos Sainz Jr. was having a great race thus far, and he was still leading with 8 laps to go, as McLaren's Lando Norris and the Mercedes drivers of George Russell and Lewis Hamilton were getting closer and closer to taking the lead over from the young Spaniard. But with 1 lap to go, it would be game over for George Russell as his car ricocheted off one wall and slammed first, like a pinball, into the tire barrier. George was okay, but it was game over for him.
Major fender bender.
Very disappointing for George Russell, and quite the fender bender he had. But when all was said and done, for the first time in a long while, the Red Bull cars were not playing a factor into the top 5 whatsoever, as Carlos Sainz Jr. would hold on and take his first Formula One race win of the season and second career victory overall. Congratulations, Carlos Sainz, for bringing the Ferrari home to victory. Bellissimo! Oh, yes, I'm sure we're all singing with glee as a result.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's right, the prancing horse is singing with glee too. Well, once again, bellissimo to Carlos for giving a great victory to Ferrari. Well, evil grin aside, Lelouch v. Britannia, I wish I had your face and looks, man. Well, McLaren's Lando Norris would finish second, Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton finished third, Charles Leclerc's Ferrari finished fourth. As a result of Ferrari's first win, they are now 24 points behind Mercedes for second place in the Constructors' title. Naturally, though, Max Verstappen still holds the points lead, and Red Bull Constructors as well, so it's going to be interesting. And now that I showed you Lelouch v. Britannia of Code Geass, and speaking of anime, the next Formula One round is this Sunday in Japan, the Suzuka circuit, where no doubt Red Bull is expected to shine big time with Honda power right behind them. Also, Liam Lawson was able to finish 9th in the Singapore GP, taking his first career points finish in his career. So congratulations, Liam Lawson, on finishing 9th in the race. That's 2 points for him. Will Daniel Ricciardo return soon enough? Well, not in time for the Japanese Grand Prix. But Sebastian Vettel, their now retired F1 driver, has been promoting like beehives by trying to build up hives for bees, because he's an environmentalist as well as a Formula One world champion, and I think that's pretty neat. By showing them off at the Suzuka circuit and getting the track officials to make the curbs, the striped curb colors be black and yellow on behalf of bees. So that's got to be a honey of a commitment. Quite a buzz too, I'd say. Well, I sure hope you like that sting of a joke. And thanks for watching, everyone. This concludes my video review of Singapore and Italy. And be sure to tune in for the Japanese Grand Prix. Who will win? Will Max Verstappen be on top once again? Or will the sun rise and shine on someone else? Tune in to find out. I'm Aaron Cylinder, firing on all cylinders.